Hello and welcome back to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Dumbest Moments of the Week. Well. Today we've got quite the lineup of AOC moments to go over here. This time we're dealing with Alex's reactions and statements concerning the ongoing health crisis happening in the United States and a lot of the rest of the world. Yeah, instead of banding together and not making this political like how we should, well, Cortez and other Democrats are trying their bestest to make this a way to push their bad ideas and policies, and also a way to attack people they don't like. And most importantly, many on the left are seeing blood in the water now, thinking they could use this situation as a way to slam President Donald J. Trump. Yes, liberals are pulling the usual opportunist, shady and underhanded tricks here, so without further ado, let's focus back on Cortez and talk about what silly things she's had to say lately. The first example we have is a clip from one of Lexi's famous live streams. We love covering these here because not only do they happen very often and provide us with lots of great wacky AOC content like the time she didn't know what a garbage disposal was, but also live streams are a great way to see into a low IQ person's mind because they usually reveal lots of interesting things about themselves when given lots of time to speak off the cuff without a script. So in this video for today, Alex is going to talk about how people aren't going out to eat so much and at certain places as a reaction to this recent health scare. Check it out for yourself and then we'll come back and talk about it more.
Honestly, it sounds almost so silly to say, but there's a lot of restaurants that are feeling the pain of racism. Where people are literally not patroning Chinese restaurants. They're not patroning Asian restaurants because of just straight up racism around.
Wow, just wow. Where do I even start with this one? Well, first of all, people are not literally not patroning restaurants because patroning is not even a real word. I'm sure she means people aren't visiting these restaurants and eating and spending money there, but come on, we're dealing with a representative from the United States Congress here. And not only is she streaming from her bedroom like some kind of e-thought, but also she's just making up words here and willy-nilly, making her side, her causes, and the Democrats look like total jokes in the process. Now, let's address the supposed racism that's being claimed here. To clear that up, we have to ask, is it racist to avoid groups or places that are related to gigantic outbreaks or other dangerous things for that matter? Because I obviously don't think that has anything to do with race or racism at all. This is equivalent to not going to school for the week because you heard there was an outbreak of, say, lice or pink eye there or something. Avoiding places possibly related to you getting sick is your right too, and I mean, what does Alex even expect people to do here? I guess AOC is suggesting we have to go to these restaurants to prove we're not racist, otherwise we'll be called so? Well, at least according to her and her flawed SJW logic, that is. But we also need to remember that to regressive leftists like this, everything is racist. Well, more specifically to them, everything they don't like is racist related. A liberal or Democrat like Alex can never be racist themselves, of course, but anything she doesn't like say her opponents, Republicans, white people, or even not going to the right restaurants because you're trying not to get sick, well, that's textbook racism according to them, even though in the real world it's not racist at all. In reality, the left had jumped the shark on their racist claims many years ago, and now they're basically in a boy who cried wolf situation where even if they did happen to identify real racism once in a while, no one would believe them anymore because they've lied about racism or exaggerated it over and over again. They're really doing a disservice to the term and to people trying to identify actual racists out there if you really think about it, because now being a racist isn't even really that bad. I mean, if you were an actual real hardcore terrible racist by logical average person standards, sure, that would be awful, but we're not talking about that at all. Alex is talking about how people who don't go to certain restaurants are racist, and they're doing so for very logical and sensible reasons, but that doesn't matter. And it sucks that this problem came out of a communist country in the Far East, but that's the world we're living in and the situation we're dealing with. And with that in mind, people certainly have a right to avoid things from that area where this problem started. I guess we shouldn't be surprised that AOC, a self-proclaimed democratic socialist and borderline communist who is now also defending the biggest communist nation in the world over trying to help and stand up for her own people. Pretty despicable. It's also worth noting that another one of AOC's Democratic cohorts, fellow squad member Ilhan Omar, also got in on this whole people are being racist because of this health scare thing. Here Omar tweets, "Viruses don't have nationalities. This is racist." Again, a pretty empty claim coming from someone who calls everything racist every day of their lives. And also, of course, naming a sickness after its country of origin has been a common practice for these kinds of things for hundreds of years. You've got the Spanish flu, Ebola virus, Japanese encephalitis, and so on and so forth. All of these diseases and many others have been saddled with names based on their locations of origin. But now in current year, with leftists running the show and taking over the mainstream media and Twitter, well, if you call this new problem anything related to its Asian country of origin, well, that will get you labeled a racist by these radicals. This is likely because they're trying to white knight Asians now, courting them for their votes or something. And also, as stated earlier, AOC along with Omar and the squad, they are far, far left socialists and virtual communists who seem to be all too happy to help another commie ally, like where this issue came from. Next, we have another related video where AOC is trying to give some healthcare advice in light of everything going on. But she, of course, does so in the worst and most aloof way possible, while telling people not to touch their faces here because it's the #1 way to spread the sickness. Well, while telling people not to touch their faces, AOC touches her own face on camera many times actually. Here's a hilarious video of that press conference and interview. Check it out for yourself.
Characterize what you heard in the meeting. Were there questions answered, and do you feel like you're getting the response that needs to come from this task force?
Well, it's still ongoing. We are getting, it is still ongoing, so we are getting some increased responses from the CDC and relevant officials.
So we're about 20 seconds in and AOC has already touched her face about 5 times, mostly related to her adjusting her hair, which quite frankly should be in a ponytail or something. But hey, we all know Alex sees herself as some kind of pretty diva fashion icon or something, at least on the left. And this can be easily seen by the way she clings to high-priced labels. And she wears overpriced outfits and heels week after week too, looking like a Hispanic Hillary Clinton. So with that in mind, I guess she was maybe too proud to dress down her long hair for a bit, even if it would stop the spread of this terrible illness and keep herself healthy.
Briefing gave more information to the extent that this is going to go. Is it going to expand? Is it going to contract?
One of the, I know it sounds banal, but one of the key parts to preventing transmission is washing your hands and not touching your face.
Says the woman who's been touching her face repeatedly throughout this whole interview. I mean, is this some kind of joke or test or something? I seriously think this situation is beyond parody at this point. What could be funnier and more over the top than a 30-year-old former bartender turned politician who seems to think she's a smarty pants now, but while she's telling people not to touch their faces, she's constantly touching her own. I guess we can chalk this up as another time the Democrats are being hypocritical and showing their double standards truly are great. Remember, like what we always say, and what we've devoted a whole series on this channel to, and that's the fact that according to liberals, it's okay when they do it. They really think they are above the law and above everyone else, and they don't have to listen. Whether it's because they won their elections or got propped up by the media who blows smoke up every Democrat's ass, or these people could have possibly been selfish, egotistical, and self-righteous originally from the beginning, or likely a combination of both. But either way, they clearly think they can do whatever they want, and they can do so on camera in our faces while telling us not to do what they're doing freely right in front of us. Really can't make this kind of BS up if you tried. And if you did, no one would believe it's true, like what's happening with this video. Next, let's just cut the baloney and skip over to a supercut of all the times AOC touched her face unironically during this video and interview. Check this out. That's nearly a dozen times in under 2 minutes. This would be noticeable regardless of what she was saying here too, and despite this health issue as well. But keeping that all in mind, it obviously makes her look far, far worse. And in turn, it also shows us something else that's interesting too. Democrats like Lexi don't seem to be as worried about this issue as they lead on. Sure, they're happily fear-mongering the crisis now in public, and they'll use it to call people racist or attack whites or something like what we saw earlier. But when it comes to actually being careful and worrying about contracting the disease themselves, well, they seem like they actually couldn't care less. That means their rhetoric isn't supported by their actual concerns. Really, they're not as worried as they lead on, and they're using this story for their own personal issues and gains, getting the whole country riled up in the process. Nothing new for leftists here, really, if you think about it. And it's certainly nothing new for AOC either. In fact, just last year, she was saying the world was going to end because of cow farts and airplane travel. So now her latching on to another doomsday-like apocalyptic story story really shouldn't surprise us. This is how Democrats get their things done. They scare people and get them dependent on the government and the left and them. And then they keep their voters under their thumb by keeping them scared and dependent on the state. Very much like their communist cohorts, actually. Now, if you think I might be kidding or exaggerating about this, just you wait. This next and final AOC moment proves she really is seeing dollar signs now. And she's more than happy to use a disaster or epidemic like this as a way to usher in her own communist-related policies. Funny how a national crisis seems to always be used to usher in full-blown communism. Strange how that works throughout history, generation after generation, isn't it? And if we don't call it out and stand up against it now, the US could be the next domino to fall. Here's an example of that from Twitter, of Cortez being an opportunist, trying to use this crisis to pass her already established and terrible ideas. She loosely tries to tie this whole thing back to the health scare, but this is just the commie BS she wanted to pass before, and now she sees a chance to ram it through in light of current events. Her tweet reads, "Right about now would be a great time to weigh emergency measures like extending Medicare and Medicaid coverage to all, eviction freezes, no strings UBI programs, eliminating work requirements for SNAP and other assistance, humanitarian provisions in prisons, and decarceral policies." Okay, well, I don't know what that second to last word decarceral means, but apparently Google says it means relating to jail or prison. I've never heard of that term, so I thought maybe AOC had made a typo, or she could be making up words again like the whole patroning debacle from earlier. But now, I guess she's trying to use big words no one knows on Twitter to make herself seem smarter, but we all know she's really not, and we could see through her charade. Or more likely, her whole Twitter account is run by another person, a much smarter, more educated person, or even a team of Democratic socialists who are desperately trying to use this crisis as a way to further their own personal agendas. In this case, socialism, communism, and giving away free stuff so people will vote for you. That way AOC can stay in office and make more money and get more corrupt. I mean, she's already made millions, mostly from her public appearances and that Netflix documentary, and other sneaky, shady side hustle ways too. And while this side gigging and moonlighting might not be illegal technically, it definitely should be frowned upon, and even I wouldn't be opposed to some kind of more strict regulation on it in the future. People shouldn't want to get into politics to get rich and make millions like this, like what most Democrats do, like the Clintons and Obamas and now AOC and her squad. Really, they're already paid handsomely by their governments with their salary from the state, and they have pretty easy part-time like jobs serving the people too, but that's what it really should be if you think about it. When you're a politician, an elected official, you're providing a service to your community, and it's almost like you're volunteering your help to your area. But instead, on the left, they're running for office because they know it will get them book deals, documentaries, appearance fees, and other ways to greatly grow their own personal wealth, while doing very little to help the actual communities they were really elected to serve for in the beginning. In the end, really all these suggestions by AOC, well, as stated earlier, they were already plans and proposals and policies she was trying to pass before, at least in part or in some way. But now that there's a crisis, she wants to pretend it's related to this, and she's acting like she just came up with these ideas, when really she's been trying to give away free shit like this to bribe her voters for years. And we certainly shouldn't let her ram through her freeloading, charity case, communist ideology just because people are scared about something else. What do you guys think? Is AOC possibly getting worse this week? I don't know if you can go any lower or look any less competent, but Alex is sure surprising us each and every time she speaks. Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button to help support this channel, and we'll see y'all next time.